भद्रं कर्णैभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैस्तुष्टुवागं सस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. Let us now pray together. We offer our salutations to the all-loving being who endows all beings with consciousness. We meditate on the Lord, who is the origin of the universe. Lord, thou abidest in all. Thou art all. Thou assumest all forms. Thou art the origin and goal of all. Thou art the self of all. Thou art existence, knowledge and bliss. Salutations unto thee. May the world be peaceful. May the wicked become gentle. May all creatures think of mutual welfare. May their minds be occupied with what is spiritual and abiding. May our hearts be immersed in selfless love for the Lord. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. Om Brahmametu Mam Madhumetu Mam Brahmameva Madhumetu Mam Brahmamedhaya Madhumedhaya Brahmameva Madhumedhaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May the all-pervading blissful existence be realized by us. May the bliss itself be realized by us. May the existence itself, which is also the bliss itself, be realized by us. May we realize the existence itself by purification of our understanding. May we realize the bliss itself by purification of our understanding. May we realize the existence which is bliss itself by purification of our understanding. Om, peace, peace, peace. Today's topic, dear friends, is a very commonly discussed topic, not only from religious pulpits, but from all other forums which look for doing good to the society, doing good to the world, because this is a common concern, let us put it like that, that our perception has these two inseparable components, I and the world. Every moment we are aware of these two as distinct but connected realities, I and the world. And when I think of doing good to me, which is a very natural instinct. The other idea also comes up. What about the world? And then the basic thought is, well, why should I care about it? Let me be busy with doing good to me. I do not have to worry about world. It is my job is to do good to me, and it is therefore I do not have to look towards world. Let world suffer, I don't care for it. That is one attitude. And then there is the other attitude, which comes due to a moral understanding. We have a special sense called morality, which according to many philosophers is the main reason for human beings to become religious. Religion is the development of our moral sensitivity, that we want that there is this world, I want to do good to myself, but I see many others also, and I want to do good to them also. When moral sense becomes more predominant in a human being and in society in general, then it is thought that even at the suffering for me, I should do good to the world. The one primary instinctive animal approach is that I will do good to me even at the cost of the world. Even if the world suffers, I don't care. I will do good to myself. Then there is this other idea, the other extreme, that when the moral sense becomes very heightened, then even if I have to suffer, I will do good to the world. So, while there is no doubt about agreeing that to do good to the world is one of the noblest feelings, most sublime feelings that comes to human mind, that you feel the suffering of others and then feel that let me do first to my fellow being, and that will relieve that person's suffering, then I will pay attention to my suffering. In fact, some philosophers and one of the prominent amongst them is the German philosopher Erich Fromm. Erich Fromm mentions this, that it is when we go to think of the good to the world, we feel the pain ourselves. When I see the suffering of others, then I take it as my suffering. And just as if I have pain, I will put balm on my pain, and this becomes my pain. When I see that somebody else is at pain, then I cannot really enjoy. It becomes a thorn in my flesh also. And therefore, it is not really just the doing good to the world, but it is balming my own pain when I see suffering in the world. So, this is a perception, and as you can see, the connection with religion, that religion takes the morality to another plane, a higher plane, that says that yes, all around us there is suffering, and therefore we have to work to remove that suffering. It is not me but you. It is I come last, the others come first. So this idea, this gives this thought, then that will be pleasing to God. The Creator wants us to do that. This will become pleasing to the Lord, and thus this becomes not a humanitarian project, but a religious act, an act of piety, that if I serve the people around, then that will be a great service rendered to God. God likes that. So, up to that, it is very fine. But when it comes to decide what is good to the world, what is to be considered as good for the world, then our ideas start becoming very fuzzy and hazy. Two people's idea of good to the world need not, or usually they do not match. One person thinks that doing this is good to the world, another person has completely opposite idea. You see, two political parties say, assuming both want to do good to the world, the opinion of one party that what should be done to make the world good may not be, and it generally is not, agreeing to the opinion of the other party. You see, we feel the world, what do we include in our worlds also matters. Some include world means only human beings in a particular part of world. I want to do good to people living in my city. So, and then the others, well, I don't have time to pay attention to them. What about other creatures? No, I do not have time for them. But I am humanist. And so, and I see the people in my state of Rhode Island, which is very small but still good for me, big enough for me to work in. So, I want to do good only to the people in Rhode Island. Others I don't worry about. Again, in the Rhode Island, two people, when they would meet, we have that reputation, we don't agree with each other on most things. So it is, what is good to the world is not agreed upon. Whether the taxes should be brought down or whether the taxes should be raised, there is a debate about it also. So, the question is very difficult to resolve. Also, it comes to thinking of all other beings. Should we do good to other beings? There are people who want to protect animals, and certainly it is a noble act, and so they advise people to become vegetarians. That no animals get killed, their life matters. We should not kill animals. But obviously they do not include vegetables in their idea of life. It is, I can never forget that beautiful cartoon about all vegetables, they came together in a big conference to protest against this vegetarianism. A cartoon was there, a big pumpkin. A pumpkin, for its size, became the chairperson. I don't know whether person would be a good word for it, but it is. Then, and the pumpkin with the gavel in hand was telling, we all must together to oppose this two-pronged attack on us by human beings. On the one hand, they want to eat us, and on the other, they also want to spare all those animals who eat us. Means we are from both sides, we are at a loss. So, while certainly those who want to protect the animals, animals should not come to harm, and so let us become vegetarians. Well, what about the vegetables? The life of vegetables, does it not matter? Why should we not include that also in us, in our understanding? Let us be broad. Okay, well, where do you want to stop? What about the life of things not on earth? Should we include that? The world, in fact, we soon discover, doing good to the world is a very, very complex thing, not easily open to deciphering. World is too big. And what, in spite of my best efforts, I can understand only a tiny bit of it. And that it is one that very nice thought is that when a person started thinking, let me do good to the world, and then soon discovered that nobody is listening to him in the world. World is too big. So he decided that let me bring my ideal down to people only in my country, United States. It soon discovered that it was discovered that that also is impractical. The United States also is too big. Okay, let me focus on my small state. Still he found that it is too difficult, nobody listens to me. Let me now think of just my city. Let me concentrate on that. There also this man found that even he could not convince his neighbors to do this and do that, too difficult. Okay, let me tell my family members. And there also he faced resistance. His wife had different opinions, then the children had still different opinions. So he found that only person he can do good to is probably he himself. So it is therefore a question as to what is good for the world. Swami Vivekananda, in analyzing this idea, said that we feel that whatever my idea is, that is the good for the world. He gives an example of a baby. For a little child, the idea of doing good to the world is fairly simple, and the child must be wondering why these grown-ups, they are breaking so much head on this simple thing. Doing good to the world means supplying infinite number of chocolates, candies to everybody, and that will take care of the good of the world. The world will become free from all sufferings. Just distribute chocolates to everybody, and that is good to the world. But then when that child grows, the ideas will change, not the same thought will prevail. They in fact will start saying it is the chocolate that is causing bad to the world. It is the sugar and cocoa that is spoiling the health of the people. It is not good. So the idea will just go 180 degrees change, and no chocolate, stop chocolate. So it is, that would be the thought of doing good to the world for this grown-up person. So what is doing good to the world? Actually, if we try to think about it, this is what is called a vacuous concept. It is an idea, but there are no details in it. It is an empty box. Doing good to the world. We cannot put anything in that without seeing that it is not universally good to the world. It may do good to some for some time, not good for all times. And that is why they comparatively modern thought against religion. But for humanism and for utilitarianism, utilitarianism came up with this idea that the God is not here. John Stuart Mill, one of the most prominent component, that philosopher giving this idea that it is utility that is important. We have to see what fits this utilitarian standard. God, he says, does not exist. That is a very important statement that he makes, that God does not, it is a meaningless thing to think of God, there is no such thing. And he gives a very logical argument for it, that the idea of God is against the experience of misery in the world. Misery in the world is a fact. Nobody can deny. It is not a philosophy. Misery in the world is a fact. Now the question comes that does God in his world willfully allows this misery, or in spite of God's not wanting it, it still comes? And he shows by simple argument that either way it refutes the existence of God. If God willfully allows misery, that means that is not a compassionate God. God has to be compassionate, and so on that ground God does not exist. The misery says the existing misery that we all know is. So that refutes the existence of God. And if you say that, well, God does not want it, but in spite of God not wanting it, it comes in, then it refutes the all-powerfulness of God. Then that God is not all-powerful, so basically not God. So God is not there. The fact of existing misery refutes conclusively the existence of God, according to him. Of course, there are holes in his arguments, but that is not the topic of today's talk. So, what then should be substituted for God and religion? He says utilitarianism. That utility, see how much good your action is going to bring. Accordingly, your action should be worthy of being performed. If that action is doing good to say 10 people, then it has that much value. If it is doing good to 20 people, then it is doing more good to more people, and so therefore it is more laudable and morally more correct than the earlier action. So he gave this thought, and it had become very popular for some time and was ridiculed afterwards because of the lack of philosophical consistency in it, that the more number of people are given more happiness, then that is the good act, and that is the criterion for the action. But who is to decide again that what is good for somebody else? It is like a child that comes here sometimes and that little boy, his mother is a disciplinarian mother, so always wants the child to properly do the homework at school and then do not waste too much time in this. And so she imposes discipline. And for that child, sometimes, therefore, she is a monster mom. She is not a good mommy at all. It is, you are the worst mom of the mommies that I have ever seen. So it is, that is how he screams at her. So now, what do you think about it? That is she doing her duty or not? From her point of view, she is certainly doing. From that child's point of view, no. So, therefore, there are people of different views, different ideas of good, and you may think your idea of good to the world is most logical, but then your logic also may not be agreed upon by other person. So, therefore, this idea that doing good to the world does not really pass this muster, let us say, of scrutiny. This scrutiny of what exactly should be considered doing good to the world. So, therefore, we have to see how Vedanta deals with it, how the scriptures not only satisfy our urge of doing good to the world, it also gives a meaning to it. Doing good to the world has been accepted, therefore, as an individual concept. And for my actions, I do not have to borrow any political party's agenda of good to the world. Whatever my conscience tells me that this is good, this is what is good to do, I do that. Now, does it do good to the world actually? I don't know. I don't know what is that does good to the world. Many a times it is possible that I am imposing my opinions and trying to impose those opinions. I think that that is good to the world. Sometimes it is just an organizational thing that this is good, you have to do it. That well-known story of those scout disciplines, the two boys from that scout. Now they do very good work in this world, but there is this discipline. You must do good to the world. You must do at least 2 acts of goodness to your fellow beings and report them. So 2 kids, they were being asked, hey, tell me at least one thing, one good act you have done today. And they said, well, there was a blind man and we helped him to cross the street. And their mentor said, wow, good. So that blind man must have profusely thanked you. Said, no, he was screaming, shouting, abusing us. Why? Because he didn't want to cross the road. But because we wanted to do some good work, so we just dragged the fellow. So it is like that doing good to the world can come to this, that I will decide what is good for you. And then even if you don't want, I force it upon you. So therefore, we see that the idea is subjective. So it has to be just limited to my conscience, that am I doing good? And at that time one must decide that this is being done for my good. I do not know whether it will be doing good to the world or not. I am doing it because this is soothing my conscience. this I feel is not right, and therefore I am doing it. So, and that is one of the most important principles, that doing good to the world is really doing good to ourselves. Doing good to ourselves. That it is even the philosopher that I referred to earlier, Eric Fromm, he also comes to this conclusion that it is doing good to oneself. So, Swami Vivekananda in Karma Yoga deals a lot with this. It's a very nice book, very small, but yet deals with so many important issues related to our spiritual practice and our duty to our fellow men. Both these things we feel that are important. That it is obvious, he says, and I am going to quote from him, from that book, Karma Yoga, that our duty to other means helping others, doing good to the world. Why should we do good to the world? Apparently to help the world, but really to help ourselves. We should always try to help the world. That should be the highest motive in us. But if we consider well, we find that the world does not require our help at all. This is a tremendous statement, friends. If we examine properly, we will see that the world does not require our help at all. It goes on its way. It is, but we feel that let us help it. It is more or less like it. Gradually we understand that as children, when we used to travel in a train, then it sometimes used to be a long, boring journey, and we would feel that the train is not going fast enough. So we would hold the bars of the windows and try to push it so that it will go faster. So now that doesn't change the speed of the train, it goes its own way. But we feel, hey, we are doing our bit by pushing it there. So it is like that the world is going its way. It does not need our help at all. And we can see after a little while why Swami Vivekananda says that. As I mentioned, this is a statement quite intriguing, that the world does not need our help at all. But at this point I am not going to explain it. Just ponder over it. That and it is a statement made by Swami Vivekananda, the most analytical thinker of our times. That why does he say so? This world was not made that you or I should come and help it. I once read in a sermon in which it was said, all this beautiful world is very good because it gives us time and opportunity to help others. Apparently, this is a very beautiful sentiment, but is it not a blasphemy to say that the world needs our help? Just think about it, friends. Isn't it a blasphemy to think that the world needs our help? That means the God didn't do a good job. Does it not mean that the God, when created the world, didn't do the world good enough, and so now we are to help it, to make it good? The world does not need our help. The world has a purpose. The world, as I began the talk, it is always, it comes with I and falls with I. Our world becomes different when we are seeing dream. When we are asleep, it vanishes. When I wake up, it again, as it were, springs up. It is with this rising of the eye, the world rises. Falling of the eye, the world falls. So the existence of the world is related to I. It is an expression of I. That's it. As I am, so is the world. So when our mental state, if you observe, changes, the world that we see, that also seems to change. When I am subjected to injustice, as I feel, when I feel things are all going down, then I feel this world is so cruel, this world is bad, everybody seems to be just selfish, everybody seems to be just a cheat. And then I write a long poem criticizing the world. That it is all these moneyed people, their game, we all are coming to harm. But then if I hit a jackpot, then that very world starts looking so good. Yes, there is justice in the world. Then I start quoting that, well, the mills of the god grind slowly, but they grind exceedingly fine, and so forth. So it is, then immediately the perception changes. So the world is really an automatic expression of who am I. So here we see that we cannot deny that there is much misery in it. I am again quoting. To go out and help others is therefore the best thing we can do, although in the long run we shall find that helping others is only helping ourselves. As a boy, I had some white mice. They were kept in a little box in which there were little wheels, and these mice tried to cross the wheels. The wheels turned and turned, and the mice never got anywhere. That's a nice little game that the toy that the children play with. These mice, they are put on those wheels, but when they want to go, these wheels keep on rotating. The mice do not go anywhere. So it is like that. We keep on helping the world, helping, try to make the world better. It remains just the same. We see that so many great people, so many people like Buddhas and Jesuses and such great sages, they did so much work. They brought in so much goodness in the world. But the world more or less remains the same misery, same suffering. It is like this. The analogy sounds somewhat disturbing, but that is how it is. That if you take out a few buckets of water from the ocean, does the level of ocean go down? It does not. And if you think that the ocean's level is going down too much, let me add a few buckets of water to it. It doesn't change either. So therefore the world more or less remains the same, because Swami Vivekananda later mentions that this world is a moral gymnasium for us. You go to the gymnasium not to change the things in the gymnasium. You do not run or walk on that, what is that machine?
Treadmill.
Treadmill, thank you. So that it is not for taking the treadmill anywhere. It is the treadmill remains where it is. What happens is you get the exercise. You get the exercise. So the world is here for us to get exercise, moral exercise. And that is why this world is like a moral gymnasium for us. By going to the gymnasium, we make ourselves strong. So by trying to do good to the world, we make ourselves morally stronger. That is the utility of it. And then he says, further he quotes, yet we must do good. The desire to do good is the highest motive power we have. If we know all the time that it is privilege to help others, this is how the mind should be changed. That we must understand that it is a privilege to do good to the world. At other place, he mentions that, look, isn't it a diabolical thought that let me help the poor, let me help the poor in the world. And what does this is the obvious thought. What lurks behind it is that let there be poor in the world so that I will be able to help them. So I want poor people in the world just so that I can help them. It is that I want to treat the sick people. I start a charity clinic and I say that, well, look, I have served so many people. So many sick people have been given medications. Now the success of my charity clinic depends on how many sick people are. The more this number of sick people, more successful is my charity clinic. So this is a thought that is built in this obviously very moral looking idea. That so Swamiji says that do not stand on a high pedestal and take 5 cents in your hand and say, here my poor man. But be grateful that the poor man is there, so that by making a gift to him, you are able to help yourself. It is not the receiver that is blessed, but it is the giver. Be thankful that you are allowed to exercise your power of benevolence and mercy in the world, and thus become pure and perfect. All good acts tend to make us pure and perfect. That is the criterion, whether the act is really good or not. If it is making me purer, then it is a moral act. If it is not doing that, then externally it might have done something so-called good. It is not good if it is making me not pure. What can we do at best? Build a hospital, make roads, or erect charity asylums. But what all these? One mighty wind in 5 minutes can break all your buildings up. What shall we do then? One volcanic eruption may sweep away all our roads and hospitals and cities and buildings. Let us give up all this talk, this foolish talk of doing good to the world. It is not waiting for your or my help. Yet we must work and constantly do good because it is blessing to ourselves. And this is the turning point in our understanding, that we must, according to whatever we can see, think, try to do good to the world, because that is the blessing to us. That is the only way we can become perfect. No beggar whom we have helped has ever owed a single cent to us. We owe everything to that beggar because he has allowed us to exercise our charity on him. It is entirely wrong to think that we have done or can do good to the world, or to think that we have helped such and such people. Be grateful to the man you help. Think of them as God. Is it not a great privilege to be allowed to worship God by helping our fellow man? That is the ideal. That do it as serving God. God does not need my help, but it is my privilege that I am able to serve God. Every early morning we have worship here, and then for offering as a snack and food offering, we keep some fruits, this, that. Now, why do we do that? Does the God not get to eat or what? I mean, what is this idea? It is that it is for purification of ourselves we do it. That may God please accept this and bless us. That is the thought behind it. So all these that we see are the images of God. God is in every heart and soul. And so when I see somebody suffering and asking for help, let me think that this is a chance where God is asking to be served, and take it upon me as privilege to do that act according to my conscience, and feel that yes, this is how I can purify myself. This tendency to do good, it is therefore a cornerstone of the idea of karma yoga, the yoga of action, where the action becomes the tool of our liberation. That we are attached to our ego, attached to the world. Now, how this attachment can be broken and we get attached instead of the world, the passing things, we get attached to God or our true self. That is by practicing these actions of doing good to the world, but with detachment. Oh Lord, it is you who make me work. These ideas gradually evolve, that how as we practice, our approach to doing good to the world starts changing. Like a person who is practicing certain skills in the beginning, like say practicing piano, is okay, looks at these scales, some primary preliminary exercises, but that person gradually develops the skills, the playing of piano becomes different, then it goes to further heights, it becomes then so spontaneous and natural for that person. One, when listens, is amazed how all these melodies are being brought out and how fast this person's fingers are moving on it. It is how these things happen. It is by practice. So here too, our awareness keeps on developing more and more as we start working with this ideal. Work is a great tool. When ordinarily people work in this world, they get caught by the work and caught by the world also, become attached, involved, and thus suffer. But the same work can be done with this idea of being unattached. And then, in that case, what happens is this doing work becomes a tool to get liberated from it. And then one starts feeling that the ego has also gone away. Who am I to do good to? It is Lord who is doing it. There was a great Sufi saint, Rahim. One of his couplets says that, well, he was asked once, he used to give the gifts all day. Whosoever would come, he would give gifts. But somebody asked him that when you are giving gift, why you are looking down like this? He said, I feel ashamed that although the giver is somebody else, that giver is giving, but people see this person and think that I am giving, and so I feel ashamed. It is like if I am being given credit for something that I had not done, somebody else has done. Then I feel ashamed. Oh no, not me. Forgive me. It is not I who did it. That other person did it. So this person says, this evolved soul sees that all actions are being done by God. I am just a tool in the hands of God. So this is the idea in doing good to the world. Let us do good to the world, but this with this awareness that it is actually doing good to ourselves. Sri Ramakrishna had gone to visit one of the very kind-hearted man, a highly learned and kind-hearted man of that time in Kolkata. His name, very well-known name in Bengal, all over India, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar. A very scholarly person and very kind-hearted person. He used to give whatever help he could to everyone who would approach. And so, but he thought that that is what we should be doing. There is, God is not otherwise, who is God after all? What is God? Nobody knows. But let us try to make this world happy. Sri Ramakrishna tried to tell him that look, all these actions, he, and I quote from their dialogue to conclude my talk. By these philanthropic activities, you are really doing good to yourself. If you do them disinterestedly, your mind will become pure and you will develop love for God. As soon as you have that love, you will realize God. Man cannot really help the world. God alone does that. He who has created sun and the moon, who has put love in their children, in parents' hearts, endowed noble souls with compassion, and the holy men and devotees with divine love. The man who works for others without any selfish motive really does good to himself. And this is the ideal that we should strive for. Let us do good to the world to the best extent that we can. But let us feel that the world does not owe us anything. It is we who owe to world for getting this opportunity. So that is how our attitude towards doing good to the world be. Let us meditate on this idea for 30 seconds, and then if you have any questions, you feel free to ask. Yes, any question? Yes, John?
I'm thinking of the union organizer in 1800, Eugene Debs, and he was quoted saying, I'd gladly lead you through the pearly gates. The only trouble is somebody will lead you back. So, you know, and you could work to try to do good for the world, but get very discouraged when you find out they've taken them back. Then there's the other extreme. I feel like if you do nothing, the world's always going to be the same. But I'm thinking of Pastor Niemoller. He opposed the Nazis getting over the power. He had this. He was quoted saying, when trade unionists were taken, I said nothing. When they came for the socialists, I said nothing. When it came to the Jews, I said nothing. And then they came for me. There was no one left to speak.
Well, yeah, that is.
That would be the other extreme.
Well, it is, what you have given are two cases. But let us look at the principle that it is doing good to the world. Yes, one gets frustrated for obvious reason, because the world refuses to change, and thus you feel frustrated. The other thing that appears to be that, yes, why did I not put my foot down then? What did I not act then? That would have probably changed it. But it is again a possibility. We do not know what would have happened. It is, but yes, that person has to exercise the conscience that yes, my doing this is the conscientiously a right act, and do it without the idea that it is going to change the world. It may not, it does not depend on me to change the world. It is too big. And if the world is changed in a way, then I may think that I might not have done that. It is even after doing certain things to do good to the world, the result that may come up may not be what I like, so or what I intended to. So therefore, it is very difficult to think that the what I do to good to the world, whether it really does good to the world. Because as I mentioned earlier also, and you can see it, you are a very intelligent man, I know, that the world is too big for us to decide whether something is good to it or not. It may be locally good, but globally bad. It is, or it may be globally good but locally bad. So who knows? It is very difficult to decide. It may be good for human beings, bad for animals, or bad for vegetables. So it is very difficult to decide. In that sense, there is this concept of doing good to the world is kind of a vacuous, hollow concept. Yes, Raymond?
Yes, this whole subject brought to mind a quotation from Ramana Maharshi, who said, "The greatest gift you can give to the world is your own enlightenment."
Yeah.
That really is.
Exactly. That is the greatest gift, yeah. That is the greatest gift. That when you get enlightened, then that enlightenment is really what everyone knowingly or unknowingly is looking for. And so when you spread that message through your life, then that is, as Raman Maharshi has very correctly put it, that it is the best help that one can give to the world. Very correct. Thank you. Yes, please. You raised hand? Yeah.
Maybe this is simplifying too much. I totally like that Ray has identified that enlightenment is the gift. Yeah, I agree with that. But prior to him saying that, I was maybe thinking in a smaller space that just merely following your heart would be in this aspect of doing good.
Yeah, that is, I thank you. I mentioned that you go according to your conscience. But the important thing is let us do it without any axe to grind, without any attachment, without the idea that that will change the world. It may not. And the way it changes, I may not later on like it also. But I acted according to my conscience, and that brought purity to my heart, which is the great thing, which is important to take me to enlightenment. As Jesus mentions, blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. So this is how one can see God. The work helps to purify ourselves. And thus we can reach the goal of life, that is to realize, experience our divine existence. Thank you. Yes, Charles?
When I was in school, sometimes if we had a substitute teacher, they would give us something to keep us busy that didn't actually serve any purpose. And if I don't feel that doing something is going to really help anyone, it seems like it's just to keep me busy.
That is certainly one level, and most of us are like that, I agree. that most of us are result-oriented people. That if I see that my actions are going to make a difference, then only I am motivated to act. If I see that it is not going to make any difference, I may become a lazy person, will not take any initiative. What difference does it make after all? I won't give any help to anybody. Because what is the use? This is a very lame argument. If, that man needed some money, and then I thought I could have given, but I think, who knows what is he going to do with that money, and even if I give that person that money, there are so many poor people who want it. How can I give to everybody? So let me give to nobody. So it is like that. This is therefore a stage in life where a person should work thinking that that is going to make a difference to the world. But that is this stage, very stage of beginning. That just because the person cannot basically work without motive, and that is, it is a harsh word, but let me use it. It is a slavish mentality. The slaves work with, on the one hand, fear of whip, on the other hand, the dangling of the carrot. And we also work like that. It is, we need incentives to work. Why do we need? Because that is how that motivates us to work. We are not trained to work without it, but gradually if we train ourselves, then we can see the difference, that how our mental state changes. That it is initially as it is right, and that would meet the end that John was telling. You will feel frustration, that you thought that it will do good to the world, but then no, it didn't do. So you come to this person that I was, Sri Ramakrishna was talking to, Pandit Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar. His life became so full of frustrations at the nearing the end of his life because of this, that everybody whom he helped criticized him, abused him. Why? Because that is how the world is. You help people, and not just Vidyasagar. Everybody, so many people keep on complaining, that, I helped that person. Right from childhood I was helping him, and now look at it. He has turned against me. This is very common complaint. And why does it happen? Why does one feel like that? Because we thought that person, as I help that person will be indebted to me. And another thing happens, when I give help to somebody, I raise the expectation of more help from that person. And thus again and again, that person kept on coming to Vidyasagar for help. And now he has a limit, how much can he give? So sometimes he would have said no. And that is how the world reacts, that whatever that bad thing has happened remains in the memory. This fellow, said when I needed, he did not give. That alone remains in mind. Sri Ramakrishna's disciple, Swami Adbhutananda, he told that Sri Ramakrishna told me to remember one thing. If you do 100 good things to the world and one bad thing, world will remember only that one bad thing. And for God it is exactly reversed. Even if you do not do anything good particularly, just one good thing, God will remember that one good thing. So this is the difference, So that is why it is right if the person is lazy, to rouse out of that laziness, it is important that give some motive. Then that person will, that engine will kick start, as it were. But nothing more than that. Oh, Jim, okay. Well, we are out of time, but okay, quick.
Quick, it would seem that the ideal doing good is the ultimate selfish act, which makes Mother Teresa probably the most selfish person that ever lived.
Well, it is, if you see that it is like that, you can also see that Mother Teresa did it as service to God, not doing good to the world. That is what makes it really an unselfish act. Otherwise, so many motives come up, like getting more following in the world, getting my name published everywhere, and so forth. And therefore, if it is done as worship, then only it makes sense. So let us conclude with the closing prayers. I request Vishwanath to do an offertory, his customary offertory, and let me give you a quick view of next week's programs. In the next Sunday, that is February 12th, the topic of discussion is beware, you are being watched. The other programs during the week will go on as usual, that is Tuesday and Friday Vedanta classes at 7:30 p.m. And the daily morning and evening meditations. You are invited for every of this. Thank you. May the Divine, who is Father in heaven of the Christians, Holy One of the Jewish faith, Allah of the Muslims, Buddha of the Buddhists, Tao of the Chinese faith, Great Spirit of the Native Americans, Ahur Mazda of the Zoroastrians, and Brahman of the Hindus, lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. May the all-loving being manifest himself unto us and grant us abiding understanding and all-consuming divine love. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. Now there is going to be the Vesper service, which already got delayed. I tried to do good to you, by talking, but she must have been very angry with me that it is delayed. So, and then after that you are all invited to join the soup supper in the basement.